Good evening, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are. I'm sure you're all in the UAE, maybe outside as well. So I'm very pleased to be here with you today. As Sally introduced me, my name is مريم إحساني. I founded the organization Child Safe Middle East 3.5 years ago after I moved from the UK here, after working in the field of child rights and child well-being for the past 12 years and internationally. So it was for me, I was very excited to work in the Middle East, and that was a new initiative that was launched, of course, by the Wadima law as well in 2016, where it acknowledged child protection and the rights of the children in the UAE. So the government is already doing quite a lot of initiatives to support the rights of the children. So through Child Safe ME, what we do, we work with different entities such as education, health, parents, and government sectors to raise more awareness around child well-being and child protection. So as Sally mentioned, the session today will be focusing on bullying. But I want to ask you a question. I know I can't hear you here, but maybe perhaps you can write in the chat box that when we talk about bullying, you know, some of us, we think bullying is a new thing. Actually, it's not a new thing. It's something that has been there for years. It's just a matter of now having a definition for it and having more people talk about it. But maybe if you look into your own context when you were a child, as a child, did you think that bullying was wrong? And when I say bullying, sometimes I might define it differently to what you will be defining it. So not always the definition, it's one. So it could be that, for example, if you have a kid who is not early in the morning to get dressed and go to school, and you start shouting, or the parents shouted at you and say, oh, and they call you names and shame you. So it's all about, I mean, I know because I work with many parents, and they say to me, Mariam, but this is part of how we grew up. This is part of who we are. It's fine to sometimes shout and name calling and shaming, because that's part of this discipline. But I want to tell you, like, if we want to really understand bullying, we have to go and dig deep down into our own childhood and understand the things that we experience as children that we didn't like, and we don't want the same thing for our children. But if we don't understand what bullying is and the definition and how to identify it, then we cannot help children to understand or to protect themselves at school or online or in any setting, even sometimes with siblings and with relatives. So it's very, very important to first put yourself in the middle and think about it. Do you agree about what bullying is? Do you know exactly what bullying is? Or there are things that you agree and some that you disagree with. So I'm going to share the screen with you here. I just prepared a few slides for you, so hopefully that will direct you through the session. And of course, I don't want you to feel that you can't ask any question outside of the slides. You can always post any question in the chat box, and I will be very happy to answer your questions. So bullying prevention session. So I already introduced myself, of course, and I can't hear you or see you, so I don't know, you cannot introduce yourself, but I'm saying hello to everyone. And what we will discuss is more an introduction on bullying, and then how to identify bullying. Because if we don't know how to identify it, how are we going to tell the children how to protect and safeguard themselves? And what to do as parents and caregivers. You know, as an adult, we all have a responsibility, a role to play. It's not just feeding and putting them into school, putting them into bed, but sometimes there are other things that will have an impact on their child development, on their child mental health. So it's very, very important to define these roles and responsibilities in order to make an agreement between you and your own children and in the family, what needs to happen and what types of conversation we should have with our children. And at the end, we will be doing a wrap up and questions. So what is bullying? One of the work, because usually this is not how I present. I do a lot of workshops face to face. And in one setting, we had two different families in one group, but both of them from the same country and both of them with the same culture, same religion. And I asked them to define what bullying is. And both of them started disagreeing with each other. So one of them said, no, actually, I don't think this is bullying. This is okay. And the other person said, no, this is bullying because I believe if we do these certain things to our children, we might cause them more damage towards their adult life. So what I want you to understand here that although we live in the same country, although if we are brothers and sisters and we grew up in the same family, defining bullying or defining child abuse can be different in different people's minds. So just to clarify this, and sometimes it's also about really being really passionate and also patient with what you want to get out of it. Because if it's not something that you learned from your childhood, then as an adult, it would be more challenging to understand and focus on and try to help your children. So bullying as a definition, as a universal definition, it's aggressive behavior that is intentional. So it's intentional. Bullying is never, unintentional. You cannot say, oh, I didn't know I was bullying you, because as someone who's bullying the other person, the victim, they always know that they are doing something wrong. It's not something that will come automatically as a behavior unless you really stop and think, am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? And it can be physical or verbal aggression, and can take a form of insult, teasing, shoving, hitting, and other intimidating and hurtful behaviors. So it's very important for you as a parents or caregivers to fully understand that bullying is not just kids being kids. It is an assault and also aggression that should not be tolerated. What do I mean when I say kids being kids? Sometimes you see families, they look at the children playing in the playground, they're playing with each other, pushing and teasing each other. Sometimes there is a border. How much of this is okay? How much of a name calling or shaming it's okay? Or is it okay? That's the thing that you need to also understand. I mean, as a family, everyone should have an agreement at their home level what types of behaviors are okay and what types of behaviors are not permitted. So if we have such an agreement with the children in the family setting, then we know when other children will cross the line. And so it's not always kids being kids. So sometimes as a parent, you have to stop and think, is this being kids, or is it something that I can interfere and help my child to protect themselves and not be bullied? Or sometimes maybe your child is bullying, it's not always your children are a victim. And it's all about really understanding how can we help children stay on track with their well-being. So this is the definition that I'm sharing with you here. So I want to give you some facts and statistics. More than 1 in 4 15 years old in the UAE reported being bullied. So that's quite high. The second point is studies have shown that up to 60% of students in the UAE are aware of someone who has been a victim of bullying or themselves as a victim. And during a research, 70% of parents were unaware of what bullying is and what to look for. So if as a parent, you don't know what bullying exactly is and what you need to look for to help your children, it's not easy to pinpoint, it's not easy to support. And also research has shown that children are not always comfortable to speak about bullying to their parents, especially if you never discuss these topics with your children. They will never come to you and tell you, Mom, Dad, I was bullied today, or maybe they would not even know it was bullying. They will maybe think they need to be stronger. They need to be tougher and not cry about something that happened at school or speak about something that happened online to them. So it's all about what types of culture you bring into your family. When I mean culture, it's not about, the Asian, European culture. I'm talking about the culture of your family. Is it an open culture family? Do you talk about different topics? Do you help children to understand their well-being by discussing some of the uncomfortable conversation of child abuse, online abuse, and bullying at school, or by siblings and relatives? So these are just some of the points that I wanted to share with you to get a concept of the study that we are going to discuss today. So some of the bullyings are direct. Some of them are face-to-face. So it's all about like psychological, or if the rolling eyes, you know, sometimes we might not think rolling eyes is bullying. If you talk to someone and, oh, they always roll their eyes and they give you that dirty look, and also they give you threats and extortion. So that is bullying, you know. It's about really acknowledging why this person is doing such a behavior and how do I identify that this fits within bullying. So that's a form of direct bullying. It's emotional. Physical bullying is pushing, hitting, or assaulting. And also third one, which is verbal, you know, insult, put downs, teasing, and harassment. You know, when I speak to parents, they say, but Mariam, you know, sometimes I'm so frustrated. I cannot stop myself not name calling my children, not saying anything to them and letting them go when they are being nasty or they're not being good in what they are doing. So if you want them to not bully others or not to be bullied, it starts within the family. So most of the research has shown that children learn a lot of their bad behavior at home or by friends or in school. So it's all about what are the information that you're giving them. It's not just about children. So even if you're talking to your husband, or the husband is talking to you as a wife, you know, the way you speak to each other. Or for example, if you're comparing each other, look how she's a good cook and she cooks always nice food, and look how he's good, he always brings so much money and you can't do it. So this is all about comparison. It's a kind of bullying, you know, and if these practices are happening within the family setting, the children are going to pick it up. They're going to pick up this and they will start practicing that behavior, and sometimes it's even stronger. And of course, not every family these things happen, but sometimes it happens within the family, and that's why we need to acknowledge how we can protect them starting very early. And then we have indirect bullying, which is behind someone's back. Yeah, I mean, what about gossip? I mean, adults always, we love gossiping, you know, sitting and gossiping, but that's, again, it's something that can leave harmful damages to the child well-being, leaving them out of their circle of friends or activities, or also talking about and making rumors, you know, about their personal matters, and telling children not to be friends with a victim. So as an example, I went to a school here last year before the COVID, the Swiss International School, and I did a workshop there with the teenagers. So I was so shocked because they came out telling me that there is websites that they create within their school, within their friends, like the teachers, they are not aware, no one is aware. What they do, they start comparing who is the most beautiful girl in the school, and they do a voting system, and who is the ugliest, and similarly, who is the strongest boy, who is the weakest. And they do this among themselves, and they never talk about this with their parents or with the teachers. And they consider this as a fun thing to do. And unfortunately, when I heard about this, I wanted to take them from why they are doing this to why is it wrong and what they can do to really protect and stop this behavior. So sometimes children, they don't know that they are doing something wrong unless we discuss it with them, unless we really break that conversation wall and tell them about these types of things, that it's not okay to compare, you know, the body image. It's not okay to compare each other and say that you are talking or gossiping behind each other in order to see who is the prettiest or who is the best. So that's a form of indirect bullying. And unfortunately, a lot of that happens online. Especially now with the COVID-19, since the pandemic, I've been sitting in front of the desktop all the time, and children are the same, parents, everybody's doing the same thing. So the amount of stress going through this pandemic, you know, everybody's online. Also, we need to acknowledge that the risk is high, even online. Don't think that it's just happening in the playground, at the school, or when they see their friends face to face. Nowadays, unfortunately, there is a lot of people that take advantage of the internet to groom children, to prepare them for exploitation, to ask them to send images, to bully them, or to harass them online on their social media or on their platforms that they use for e-learning. So it's very important to also look into that presence of their online. What do they do? What do they get into? And have this conversation that sometimes cyberbullying, online bullying, is more serious than face-to-face bullying, because you can never know who is behind the screen. You know, people can make names and accounts, and they can start doing what they want to do without much control. So it's very important to really acknowledge that with your children, especially young age, you know, when they cannot spot the danger, the risk of being bullied online. So now let's discuss what is the characteristic of a bully. It's always high self-esteem and no fear to do anything. So the person who always bullies is always like strong, and they want to show themselves, and they are the center of attention. They may be popular in school or in the group of friends. So they could be a leader in the group, in their school or in the institution, wherever they are, or online. You know, sometimes these video games, they have a leader and they have other groups. So it's very important to look into all of this to understand why this person is always a leader. Is this person, she, he, taking advantage of others? Are they bullying others? So that's, the research has shown that usually they are the center of attention, and more likely to engage in other problem behaviors later in life. So don't assume that if they are bullying others now, they will turn to be 100% okay when they are an adult. Usually they move into criminal activities, alcohol, and other drug abuse. So it's very important to acknowledge that there is something wrong as early as possible in order to support if your child is bullying, or if you know another child who is bullying others. Now, signs that a child is bullying others: gets into physical or verbal fights, and they are increasingly aggressive. They're always angry. You know, sometimes they come home, they're always angry, or you see them like even in school, they're never calm. They're not, you know, they cannot control their temper or their emotions. And they get sent to the principal's office. This happens quite a lot, that you get a letter or you get a phone call if a child is being bullied or being a bully. So have an explained extra money. This happens a lot in the UK as well. Unfortunately, those who bully others, they usually ask them for money, and then they make the children steal money from their parents because they are abusing them and they are taking control. And when the other child is not confident to stand for themselves, sometimes this happens quite a lot, and it's very dangerous when this happens, because they lose all control and they become kind of a robot. You know, they've been asked to do anything that the bully is telling them. And also they blame others for their problems. You know, they never take, you know, responsibility for their own problems, and they have friends who bully others. What happens, I was working with the Dubai police last year on a child protection initiative. And one of the campaigns we did, it was very great actually. So this child, he was wearing, he wears the glasses. And he was sitting on the dining table, and by accident, when he was passing by, something fell out of the dining table. So his dad, what he told him, he said, "You are very stupid," and he pushed him away. And that child didn't say a word, but he was hurt. He was really hurt by what the behavior his father did. And he called him stupid. So what happened then, that child went to school, and similarly, something happened with his friend. And what he did exactly what his father did, but even stronger. Because sometimes people who are being bullied, they cannot protect themselves in front of the person who is bullying them. So what do? They try to find someone who is weaker, who is less confident in their personality. And this is when everything comes out. And this is when they start getting all the hurt out to others. So it's a very, and when we talk about psychology, it's an effect that it's a chain. If I push you, you push the other person, but it's all about stopping it and thinking, why am I going to push the other person? Is it because I was pushed? Or is it because I need to push? So it's always about really acknowledging the feelings, similarly with adults, similarly with children. So why children don't speak to us as an adult? That's a very important one. So if we're talking about bullying, can make a child feel helpless. Sometimes they are shy, or they feel if they come and talk to you, then they will be, weak. So they will try to really hide it and be in control of what happens in school, and rather not come to you and speak to you about it. So what we can do in order to overcome this, it's to don't wait until you see bullying happening in the family. Sometimes you have to start the conversation, seeing like, how is it in school? Have you heard of bullying? Do you think someone is being bullied? Just make sure the conversation is always there. Similarly, when we talk about child abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, there's certain things that you need to prepare the conversation in order to be able to help, right? So the second point here is kids who are bullied may already feel socially isolated. So this goes back to that example that I just mentioned. If a child is already isolated and they're being bullied by their parents or by others, they may become the bully in bullying others. And kids may fear being rejected by their peers. This peer pressure, I cannot tell you how influential it is, even on the online platform. It's always about what other friends are doing, how they're doing it, what are they going to push you into doing. So this happens a lot when a child is not confident and they cannot say no and they cannot stand for themselves. So this goes back again to how confident and how strong the child is in not being pressured by their peers. I'm not saying by talking about bullying, you can prevent or take out bullying 100%, no, but you can always minimize it or prevent it from happening, or at least you can feel comfortable that you have communicated the message to your child, they know about it, and they can protect themselves if it happens. So I hope this is clear when I'm saying that you need to start at home. Don't always rely on schools, because I hear parents saying, but this is something that they should be doing in school. This is something that they need to be teaching them, by when they start school, what is bullying and how. No, it's not always only the school's responsibility. When we talk about child protection, it's everyone's business. Everyone, even those who don't have children, they need to be aware if they see something wrong, they need to report it to the police, or they need to do something about it. And thankfully here in the UAE, there's a lot of initiatives where you can report bullying, you can report online abuse, and I will share that with you at the end of the session, where the police are going to take care of it, and they will take it very serious because it is a crime. It's not okay to be bullied, and it's not okay to be bullied online. So it's not only about hitting and kicking and physical abuse, but emotional abuse, which comes directly from bullying, it's quite serious. And why is it serious? Because if we talk about emotional abuse or bullying, sometimes you cannot see the impact. So if I hit, you can see a bruise, for example, or you can see a cut, or you can see something. But if I bully, if I use my words to bully you and belittle you, you cannot see anything, face to face. But what can happen to that child, it's the emotional damage. It's the things that will stay with the child for a long term. And sometimes, unfortunately, a very interesting article I was reading the other day that carried out in the US, that they looked at the childhood of certain adults and the relationship of how the parents treated children and how they become an adult in their adult life. So if the child is being emotionally abused or emotionally damaged or bullying at young age, they will suffer throughout lifetime. It's not something you can go to the doctor and say, oh, I need a painkiller for my bruise. It's more like something that needs to really, you know, be fixed regularly and worked on, and therapy. And so why not start early? And there's a saying that they say, it's better to fix a child than a broken adult. I want you to hear this again. It's better to fix a child rather than a broken adult. So why not do everything we can from a young age in order to help children to live in a happy life and also to be protected and safeguarded. And I know all parents are doing all they can, but sometimes it's about doing that going the extra mile, having that extra conversation, you know, not only about making sure they look good and they are educated and they go to the best holidays and travel, but rather, are they able to talk about their emotions? And sometimes, unfortunately, adults are not comfortable talking about their emotions. So it's all about building that confidence in child at a young age. So signs a child is being bullied. So this is where you need to be alert. Sorry, I'm just gonna have a bit of water. So if their clothes are torn or damaged, or missing pieces of their clothing, books, or other belongings, that's always a sign. I know when you see this, of course, you will question it. Unexplained cuts, bruises. So sometimes teenagers, especially, they will come and say, oh, we just had a fight, friendly fight, and it was nothing serious, mom, you know, don't do anything. Don't always, I'm not saying that don't trust what the children say. Of course, they need to be heard and trusted. But as an adult, you need to always question what's behind it, you know, so investigate, find out, you know, is it really was a friendly fight, or was it somebody bullying the child, or was it somebody who did it on purpose? And sometimes those children who are being bullied, they don't have any friends or few friends. So that's always an alarming situation to look out for. Afraid of going to school or making excuses not to go to school. So that's also very common. They try to avoid being in school or avoid play groups or activities. And sudden change in their school grades, you know, that's also alarming when you see these things. And if they are sad, moody, and they lose their appetite, or low self-esteem, you know. I mean, these are what studies have shown, that these characteristics are mainly fitted within a child being bullied. Of course, maybe there are other reasons behind it, but these are the factors to look out for when you want to really identify bullying that's happening. So what discussion to have with your child? For example, just say, I have heard a lot about bullying in the news. Is that going on at your school? Just prompt them, you know, just open the conversation and see what they say. Sometimes they're just waiting for you to start the conversation in order to start sharing everything with you. You know, so it's all about that bonding, having that healthy parenting, childhood bonding. And the second thing is, the question is, are there any kids at school who may be picking on you or bullying you? Maybe start with picking on you, and they say, oh no, it's just teasing me, you know, nothing serious. And then find out what are the things that they say. And then maybe if you want them to feel more comfortable, you can give them a few examples, you know, from what you heard, and say, what do you think? Do you think this is right or this is wrong? So it's all about really giving them the tools to think and to stand from themselves. It's not just, you know, parenting them and say, oh, this is bullying, I need to stop it, I need to do this, but rather help them to fully understand their position towards where they are. And the third one, you can ask them, are there any kids at school who tease you in a mean way? You know, teasing, it's very common, like even adults, they tease each other. But also it's important to know, where does it end? Where is the fine line? Is there a fine line? Is there a limit that you can control? And finally, the question that I have put for you here, are there any kids at school who leave you out or exclude you? You know, as I said during some of the workshop at school, this happens a lot. It depends how pretty, as they say, or how strong the boy is, and they form these groups, which is wrong. And this, if you find out such things is happening, you need to discuss it with the school, and you need to find out how to really raise awareness for the children, because it's not always about having policies and procedures, but it's also about having child-friendly materials to teach the children themselves. You know, it's not always about the adults knowing, but the children also knowing about their rights and about their well-being. So discussion to have with the school, ask them, do they carry out awareness session for children of all ages? So on bullying, on child abuse, on different elements of child development. Do they do that? Do they have a child protection or child safeguarding policy? And do they have a child protection, child safeguarding officer to implement? What do I mean by that? Having a policy is not the only thing that will safeguard and protect children from bullying or from child abuse, but rather it's something that will give guidelines to you as a parent, knowing that if bullying happens in school, what the school is going to do. Yeah, so although we have a child protection policy in the UAE, some schools are not taking bullying seriously. So they would say, oh no, this is just kids being kids. But then you need to understand, do they have a policy? Do they write about bullying? And what do they do if somebody is bullied? How do they report? You know, do they encourage reporting, or do they tell children, no, this is not bullying, just leave it? And similarly on their online presence, you know, there's a lot of video games nowadays, unfortunately, or the e-learning platforms, that some pedophiles or people who are nasty sitting out there finding a way to get into your computers or your children's computers and images and information. So they can be playing the game with your child, pretending that their name is, I don't know, Samer, he's 12, and then he's speaking to Muhammad, who is 13, but then he could be a 70 years old man sitting behind the screen pretending he's 12 years old. So it's all about really telling the children, I don't want you to scare them. It's not about creating fear. It's about creating confidence and giving them the right tools to protect themselves. Because if a person on a video game asks them, how old are you? Where do you live? What is your full name? Where is your school? These are questions that they should not be asked on a video game or an online presence, you know. Unfortunately, children being children, sometimes they give away all the information because they don't know. They think it's okay. But it's always about really protecting them online and making sure they understand how to stay safe and how to stay safeguarded as well. So one of the things that happened recently, I don't know if you heard about it. So they, in between YouTube's adverts, so this was last year, it's called Momo, the Momo challenge. So what happened that in between the advert on YouTube, children watching YouTube, there was a Momo challenge coming up, and it was very distracting. And it was telling children to do certain things that was not appropriate, and it was very shocking, you know. And thanks God, what happened, they did report that and they took care of it, and now it doesn't exist. But it's about doing the little things. For example, if you have very young children, check, do they have YouTube Kids? Have you downloaded YouTube for Kids? Because when you have YouTube for Kids, you can be assured that no advert, inappropriate advert will be there. It will be safe for the kids. Then again, on social media, I mean, I don't know how many children you have or how old they are, but children need to be above 13 years old in order to be online. That's the policy. That's the guideline for Facebook, Instagram, and all social media. And sometimes I speak to family, children of 8 and 9, they have social media accounts. So unfortunately, people are thinking, oh, it's very nice to post picture of their children and to post their full name, to post which school. Sometimes you don't even need to call which school they are in. You can post a child with the uniform, the logo is there, and somebody who is looking for opportunity, they will be finding your child. So these things happen, unfortunately. And I'm not trying to scare you, because that's my field of work. I get to see a lot of these things. I get to hear a lot of these things. It's all about being prepared and alert, and making sure that you understand that the online presence, it's sometimes actually scarier than being face-to-face with someone. And that is a big issue. And I think with this pandemic, with the COVID-19, we are heading towards online more than ever. And I know the schools are open, but some schools are still carrying out e-learning. Ask the school, when they are doing e-learning, have they talked about online safety? Have they talked about what if something goes wrong online? What if somebody hacks the class online and tries to watch the videos of the children? So there are a lot of questions to be asked, but it's a matter of you taking responsibility and really looking out for these information with the school and see what procedures they have. You know, sometimes if there is a report at the school, it doesn't end there, because then they have to report it to the police, or they have to report it to the Ministry of Interior, where child protection sits, or they have to report it to Dubai Foundation for Women and Children. So there are different entities within the UAE that can support, you know, the implementation of child protection. And bullying, for sure, it's one of the crimes that needs to be highlighted, and more awareness is needed. Apologies. So if you are in the UAE, you can report and get support via. So there's a 24-hour child abuse hotline, which is 800-988. So you can call them, and there's 24 hours, 7 days a week, and report any types of child abuse, which can consider bullying or any forms of abuse that happens. Then you can, if there is anything online abuse, so for example, if your child comes to you and say, Mom, Dad, you know, there is this person who wrote this to me and shamed me or named me or tagged me, or any sort of online crime, it can be reported through the website here, www.ecrime.ae. And of course, for any emergency, you can call the Dubai Police 999. And if you want to find out more about the initiative that I do at Child Safe Me and my organization and my team, you can follow us on Instagram at Child Safe ME. And also we have a podcast channel where we post every month a topic. So for example, last month we talked about smacking children. Is smacking okay? Is hitting children okay? Because sometimes parents say you need to smack the child in order to be disciplined. So we talk about different topics. You can always find it on Apple Podcasts, or you can go to our website and listen to all the podcasts for free. And that would help you to stay in tune with all the discussion and the latest topics on Child Safe ME. So as a wrap up, I hope I didn't give you too much and you don't have too much headache. As a wrap up, start at home and start early. Sometimes people say to me, what is early, Mariam? I say you can start at 2 years old. 2 years old, you can already start about safety by using a hula hoop and a picture of the people who are safe to approach and who are the people they should not be approached. There are games, there are tools, there are so many things that you can start very early to build that child development in your children. Don't wait until they are 5 or 6. Sometimes, you know, when we look at research, it has shown that the brain cells are fully formed by 5 years old. So whatever you build up until 5, the pillars are there. Yes, you can add to it, but if you haven't talked about confidence, safety, and all of these things, the child will not be comfortable to start talking about it at a later age. And this is what has shown in many, many studies and many, many research, which has been shared globally by everyone. It doesn't matter which culture, which country, we need to start early. Don't avoid uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes people say to me, but Mariam, if I start talking about bullying, maybe I am going to encourage them to be bullied or to bully others. It's like telling someone, you know, if I tell you this is the safe road and that's the unsafe road, then you will take the unsafe road. No, doesn't happen all the time. It's always about equipping your child with the right knowledge to be confident and to stand for themselves. Teach your children from an early age to say no to the things that they are not comfortable with at school or with others. Not to be rude, but to be assertive. Assertiveness is something that we need to learn as a young age, at a young age. Acknowledge their feelings. So don't start talking about bullying and just make them fearful about it, but it's all about listening, you know, and them feeling that they're being heard. Sometimes it takes time for a child to open that relationship with you in order to feel comfortable, but it will come, you know. Don't think if it doesn't happen in one day, it will never happen. Set a good example. The children always look into you. They look and how you treat each other as wife and husband, as partners, as caregivers. Whatever happens in the family, they are taking all this information and they are taking all of this to build their own personality. So if you want them to be on the right track, try to be on the right track. If you want them to really be confident and treat each other with respect, do the same at the home level as well, in the family setting, and encourage openness. You know, in some cultures, people say, oh no, this is embarrassing, you should not talk about this. If they bullied you, it's okay, it's your uncle, it's your auntie. It doesn't matter who does the bullying. If there is a bullying, you need to stand for your child and you need to really say, this is not an okay behavior. That's not an okay thing to happen, because I know it hurts and I know it damages your feeling. And this is why I am here as a parent for you, to tell you that you can talk to me, you can be open about anything that you want to discuss, especially when it comes to bullying. So now we will take the questions, and I'm looking forward to, these are my details if you want to get in touch, of course, and at the end you have the Child Save Me account for Instagram, and you can check our website. But thank you so much, and I'm very happy now to take the question. I hope you find the session very useful. So Sally, over to you with the questions.
Yes, thank you so much, مريم. Everything that you said, like, it hit a chord, and I'm sure that everyone who's listening also feels the same. We have a good number of questions. We'll start with the questions in the chat. First one is, I'm in my 30s and I don't remember that this topic being highlighted as it is today, although I'm sure that we were victim of some type of bullying.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah,
this is what I mentioned at the beginning. It's sometimes when we think back, some certain behaviors were okay at that time. You know, we never looked at it, but now with everything that we're moving forward, like, we are not doing the things that our ancestors are doing. We're not doing the things that, you know, people used to live in caves, and, you know, so things change. Similarly, when we talk about child well-being and child psychology, things change. So this means even if we were bullied, even if I was bullied, I don't want to have that practice for my child. But sometimes we are so deep into our beliefs and into our culture and practices that we cannot see anything outside that. So what is the best thing to do? Is always to unlearn to learn. You know, I always say that if you want to learn new things, you need to unlearn what you learn. Because in order to learn something new, you cannot compile everything on the top. If you thought it was bullying was okay and you were bullied, now you can see it with a different view. You can say, yes, I was bullied, it was not okay, but at that time, I didn't know. Now I know, now I want to acknowledge it and stop that chain of bullying to pass to my children.
Perfect.
I hope I answered the question.
Yes. The next question is, how can I encourage my child to open up to me if he's being bullied?
Okay.
From that same person, she commented on the part where you mentioned the website in the school where they created the website. She says that the website is very wrong and on so many levels. I can't imagine the mental scarring it causes these kids.
Yes, it's very damaging. I mean, it was devastating. When I was hearing the teenagers, they were saying, yeah, but, and I asked them actually, I said, how do you make the voting? And she said, it depends which size you are, how pretty you are, how your hair looks like. And this is all things that they've been going on about it on their own without presence of an adult. So you can imagine how things are going wrong within that circle of group, within that voting or website system that they have created. So the first part of the question, how can I encourage my child to open up? So first of all, you need to see if your child is also comfortable to talk about different things. So if you have never talked about uncomfortable conversation like child abuse or physical abuse, emotional abuse, start to tell them, is there anything that you feel, or maybe there are on YouTube, there's plenty of videos like animation where there is a song. It depends on the age of your child. There is videos where there is a song and the children can learn things about bullying by listening to this song. So I can also share with this, Sally, maybe if you can share it with others after the call. I don't know if that's possible somewhere on your platform, where people, they can go and find out more about this and how to approach children. But it takes time. If it's a new thing, you need to spend a lot of time listening and asking questions and prompting. Use some of the questions that I shared at the end of the slides and saying, I heard about this. Have you heard about it? And if yes, who was it and what did they do? Something like that.
Okay. I posted in the chat 2 links. One of them is to your Instagram account and the other one is to the podcast and website. Again, I'd like to encourage you all, if you'd like to know more information about the topic, go ahead and follow Child Safe Middle East on Instagram and the website. Another comment in the chat, someone says it's a huge responsibility for parents to monitor what their children are susceptible to online. Sorry. Okay, let's start with the questions in the Q&A. Someone asked, can you be bullied by your parents, or is it only a thing that happens between peers?
No, so you can be bullied by parents, you can be bullied by adults. It's not only bullying, it's between children. No, as I said, you know, sometimes parents bully children, as an example of the campaign that I shared by the Dubai police. And also sometimes adult to adult bully each other. So bullying happens in all different age group.
Okay, second question is bullying something that happens to kids? Following your definition, I believe that me as an adult, I suffered from bullying. I think that was also answered by the previous question. Okay, my kid confided to me that he witnessed a classmate being bullied and that he was scared to take action because he feared that he might get bullied as well. What's the right action to take in such a case?
That's a very good question. So unfortunately, you see, if the child has never heard in the school, if anything happens like this, where they need to go to, who they need to speak to, they will never speak to anyone at the school level. I'm very happy that he or she came to you and spoke to you about it. But that's when these things happen at the school level, that's a responsibility of the school to really acknowledge these things. So, for example, when they start a new term, they should be having prevention classes, like maybe 30-minute talk about bullying, and saying if you are being bullied or you see someone being bullied, you have to go to, for example, Catherine or Asma, I don't know. So they have to identify the person who they can report to. So this means they don't, when the child reports, they should not be named. They should not be sharing the information and saying, oh, Yasser reported Ahmed. You know, it's all about really having that confidence. And that's why I said, check with the school, do they have a policy? Because if they have a policy, they should have a procedure. If they have a procedure, then they have a system. And what does that mean? It means that if something is reported, it's dealt professionally, and it's not going to go out on the school and everybody would know who did what. So all of this needs to happen at the school level. And I'm not surprised by what your child said, because if you don't know what will happen, you will never report. You want to feel confident as an adult or as a child. So check with the school. Do they have a policy or procedure? Do they acknowledge this?
So this is also a responsibility of the school to identify for all of the kids and parents, like there's like X person who is responsible for managing such cases.
Yeah, yes. So it's important because under the Wadima law, The Wadima law is the child protection law that was established in March 2016 in the UAE. Under the Wadima law, it says that all institutions, all schools, they need to have a policy on child protection and child safeguarding. So if a school doesn't have it yet, you can actually report them to KHDA. You know, they need to have that. If they are working on it and they are not yet finished, that's a different story. But if they are not, they think it's not important and they should not have it, that's a problem. Because the school have a good influence at the school setting, because children spend hours at school, and even on the e-learning online, it doesn't matter, it's all the same. It's all a matter of them acknowledging that they have a system in place where they can report it internally and externally to the authorities. So it's a very serious matter. If a school is not taking it serious, then there is a problem with that education system.
Okay. Someone asks, how can I, as an adult, defend myself when getting bullied?
So is that adult to adult bullying, I'm assuming?
Yes, exactly. So you mentioned that as a child, I go to my parents or the parents, they try and like get the child to talk about it. But as adults, I believe it's different. So how?
Yes, of course. I mean, that's a completely different session, but I can just mention a bit here. So as an adult, unfortunately, bullying happens, and in all different forms. It could be harassment at work, it could be name calling, or it could be shaming, or it could be comparison, or it could be among your friends or sibling, or I don't know the story exactly. But you have to stand for yourself. And I know it's not easy if you have never done it, but it's all about standing and saying, no, this is not an acceptable behavior and I don't accept it. Because believe me, you are the only one who knows your worth. If you don't share your worth with people, you don't tell people how much you're worth, I'm not talking about money, it's about your worth as a person, then people are not going to take you serious. There are some bad people out there that they want to see who is the weak person so they can start abusing or bullying or harming them or harassing them. So the more you show that you are a victim, the more the bullied person will bully you. And I know it's not easy if you just want to stop this now and you want to stand for yourself, take it step by step. First, build on your confidence, on your self-resilience. You know, all of this is important in order to believe that you don't deserve that treatment. You don't deserve that behavior, and you have a worth that people should respect, and there is a line that should not be broken. And I'm sorry to hear that you are going through bullying as an adult.
I know it's not easy, like either for a child nor for an adult.
No, it's never easy, and it's never okay. It's not, and you know what, Sally, sometimes people say, oh, but he was, you know, he lost his temper, or she lost her temper and they got angry, and they, you know, this is their problem. If somebody loses their temper, they need to manage their temper. They need to manage their emotion. It's not about making excuses. I cannot just bang on the table and say, no, I did it because I'm tired or I'm angry. No, it's all about really being responsible for your actions, being responsible for what you do. And like when you are working in an office or in a company, in an organization, you always sign a contract, right, Sally? You sign a contract. Yes. So similarly, when you are with anyone, I'm not saying physically you have to have a contract, but you can have an agreement. What is okay? What is not okay? What I permit for things to happen in our relationship, what I don't permit. And similarly, the other person can do the same thing. And then you can see if you agree or disagree. Sometimes you agree to disagree. And sometimes you say, oh no, I need to go both different ways. You see what I mean? So it's all about having that agreement, that level of understanding as an adult, to highlight what are the things that you want to happen to you and what are the things you don't want them to happen to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's like when you're being bullied by, like, let's say a stranger or someone that you don't have to deal with on a daily basis. But what if that bully was a parent and your child? So basically you're like the helpless end of the equation. Is there like
do we have, Sally, children?
Someone? Sorry?
we have only adults on the call, right? Or also children?
Yes. No, we have adults, but it's also, I think it's important like to get it out there.
Yeah.
If a child is being bullied by their parents, how can that child be assisted or helped?
Yeah.
Is there like a person at school who's supposed to keep an eye on such cases? Tell us more about this, please.
So the thing is, Sally, you know, when your parents are bullying you and they don't understand why they're doing what they're doing, or they think is right what they're doing, it's a real struggle. But I've been approached by many children, because I used to go to schools and give talks and seminars, and also online, you know, sometimes on social media, they contact my assistant or my team, and they say, I'm a child and my parents are bullying, what do I do? So we always say, okay, ask them to listen to the podcast. Like, we have a lot of podcasts on physical abuse, emotional abuse, different types of abuse that is explained, you know. And it's not about telling someone you are wrong, because the minute you come and tell someone you are wrong, they will close everything. They will shut you down. So it's always about telling them that there is another way of doing things. There is a better way of doing things. As a child, you know, in some cultures that children are not supposed to talk. They're not supposed to be seen. They're not supposed to be heard. So it will take a lot of efforts, but I'm not saying it's impossible. Sometimes it's a matter of finding out how to help them reach out to different people to find out more about their problem, or to find out more how to best parent, because it's a matter of parenting as well. There's different parenting style. Sometimes parents are choosing to be always angry and strong and in control of everything to have a better discipline, and bullying can be part of that, which is wrong. And sometimes parents are more open. So it's all about finding out how to help the parent to understand that there are different forms of parenting. It's not always the style that they've been managing that.
Which is, I think, why such initiatives and why such programs are very important, because like it sheds the light on such issues that are usually like masked in our community.
Yes, yes.
Back to the questions. My child was being bullied at school, but would get very aggressive when we try to discuss it at home, and would beg that he can handle it on his own. What can I do as a parent, and do I step in?
So if you started having a conversation at home and he got aggressive and upset, start to go through the road or the channel of the school. Sometimes children are more comfortable at home to show aggressiveness because this is their comfort zone, but at school they wouldn't. So if they are sitting in one room and the teacher is saying, we will be talking about bullying and we will be discussing what is right and what is wrong, the child cannot leave the room and get aggressive. So it's a matter of really finding the right channels and the right tools. And that always helps. I had this example before that a parent say, it didn't work at home. What do? I say, contact the school, or perhaps, you know, speak to a friend who they trust or they feel comfortable to speak with. Maybe that friend can have an influence on them, and they can have the conversation with them. So it's a matter of finding where is the best contact that can influence them, and don't give up, because I know it can be very challenging.
Another question, how can I prepare my kid to defend himself against a bully, yet raise a confident and respectful but not weak child?
So sometimes parents say, oh, I teach my child if somebody hits them, to hit them back. And they ask me as a child well-being specialist, they say, do you think this is okay? What do you think, Sally? Just as an example.
As a mother, I think that it's not okay. Like, this is, kids still don't like differentiate between when it's okay and when it's not. They don't have like that mentality. So from my point of view, I'd rather not teach him at all to like take the initiative to hit someone back.
Exactly. And that's the best
reach out to an adult, like an adult there, and tell them what happened and ask for help.
Exactly. So it's teaching your child to have when you say to them hit back, it's a fight mode. And a fight mode will never win them or give them anything good in life. Yes, maybe they will feel good because they hit back, but that's never a good approach. So it's always about really teaching your children to be assertive. You know, this word assertiveness, it's very important. It's being able to say no without being rude, being able to stand for your rights without showing aggression or showing, anger with others. So it's more about teaching them how to be confident and how to be assertive. And remember, I said this, it starts at home. If you want them to be confident, give them some responsibility at home. Ask them to talk about something that maybe they never talked about. Give them an assignment that they can feel, and this slowly can build their confidence. And hopefully when they are outside or online, they can stand for themselves and say no to things.
And I love that you mentioned that it's never too early to start. Like I have a 2-year-old. So at 2 years old, it's okay to start teaching them such things because it builds up in their mind.
Yes, because children are born with all their brain cells, Sally. So if you think that, okay, we wait until they are 5, they will understand. No, they understand, they record everything right from the young age. So the more you take care of what information they are listening to or hearing or seeing, even sometimes parents, they fight in front of a 2 years old or 1 year. They are recording this. In terms of psychology, all of this is recorded. It will come out. So don't assume that, oh, they're not seeing, they're not hearing. Everything is being registered by a young age when they are born.
Yeah, and I keep saying like kids are like sponge at that age. They absorb everything that you show them or give them.
Exactly. Even during pregnancy, they have been a lot of research and study that the child starts to hear what's around it, their surrounding, if the mother is stressed or if there is a good atmosphere or there is a nice relaxing music. All of this have an impact. So imagine if they are, when they are pregnant women, the children are still registering. So when they are born, then that's it. It's 100% alert.
Yeah. Okay. Question. I feel that I have been very critical in a negative way to my 6-year-old child. Is it too late to fix it or to fix the damage that I have created?
It's never too late. Even if you start today, that's it. You can do a huge difference. You can bring a huge positive impact. It's always about believing that you can change the way you do things. And this is when your child will start changing with you. So this criticizing, it's something that is in many cultures. They think if you criticize the child, they will be stronger, they will be better, but that's not. This is an approach, an old approach. And I'm glad that you mentioned that you want to start and you want to change that. Start by appraising them. Start by changing the tone of voice that you use. And believe me, slowly, step by step, you will see the positive changes.
Okay. Question. A child at my son's school would get little gifts for the whole class regularly, except for 2 children. And my child was one of these 2. I explained that it's wrong and would get my child similar gifts, but it's still heartbreaking. What else can I do to help my child?
But first of all, I want to know why would this even happen at school? The school should not allow this. There should be some control. And this is what I'm saying when I'm talking about child protection policy. Certain things, they should be okay. Certain things should be not okay. Why would a child bring gifts to everyone else and not 2 of them? So if there's something that's happening to everyone needs to get it. So this is when it's a serious conversation that needs to happen with the principal and with the parents to discuss, like, this is a form of bullying. This is excluding my child from something. The child is not in need of the gift, but if you're doing something at the school level, it needs to be for everyone, right? So you need to have that conversation.
So do you feel like in such a situation that the parents of that child are encouraging the bullying by like supporting that their child does not want to gift these 2 children?
But maybe, Sally, that parent don't know, they don't know that how many children are in school. Maybe they just ask the child how many gifts you want and then they buy it. So we don't know the full case, but it's a matter of really investigating and finding out by speaking to the school and then to the parent and finding out why this is happening and if there's anything they can do, because that's not nice feeling for that child who's been excluded.
I agree. Okay, so next question. What should the kid do when being bullied other than only report to the teacher or the school? And how can my child protect themselves from being bullied again?
So it's also about teaching defensive mechanism, you know, to stand and say no, or say, I don't allow you to speak to me like that, or I don't like the way you treated me. And these are things that they can use verbally. It's not about being aggressive and hitting and fighting back, but rather really standing for themselves and believing that they can speak, because that's also another problem, that children feel not very confident and comfortable to speak back if somebody says anything wrong to them, or they start bullying them about their look or their skin color or their hair or their body image. So it's all about really practicing these with your children. They say, you know, this is not an okay practice. And of course, the parent has to take this serious matter at the school level as well.
Yeah, I guess it's like the matter of a confusion that's
yes, yeah.
there. There's a conflict whether to teach your child like to turn the other cheek and just be peaceful, or to be confident and assertive, right, not being confused and returning back aggressiveness.
Yeah, okay. So
okay,
how many more questions do you have?
That's the last question. I'm going to ask the last question now. As a child, I witnessed my mother being bullied by family members, but I was too young to stand up for her. It still haunts me now after years of that abuse. What is to be done when children witness adults being abused and how they feel helpless?
I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm sure it was a very bad experience to see that and to witness that. I mean, as a child, as one of you mentioned at the beginning, things have changed. So maybe at that time, nobody talked about these things and there was no law to protect these certain behaviors, or to say these behaviors are a crime or wrong. But now, I mean, when things are, if there is awareness is key. If there's a lot of people talking about the topic, the children will be hearing it, the parents are hearing it, and sometimes actually saying to the parents, it's sometimes people say to me, but a child can never say to the parents, you are wrong. I say, no, if you have that healthy bond relationship, you can speak to each other. You say, mom or dad, I don't think the way you're treating each other is nice. And this happens. Honestly, it requires a lot of efforts in the family, but sometimes it's like, oh, I heard this in school. But imagine if there is no awareness, how would that child feel comfortable to even speak? Or how would that child even tries to help his parents by speaking up about it? Because you might speak and you might be hit, or you might be bullied yourself as a child. So some children will rather not speak because they feel helpless and they feel that they cannot do anything. But situations are different now, especially with, if you are in Dubai, there's a Dubai Foundation for Women and Children that they do take care of these things. You can report it, and they can really help the adults themselves, or the women or the parents, to find out and get support on these topics.
Okay, no, I believe that the house, or like a family environment, it should be like the safest place for a child.
Yes,
no child should feel that they're not able to talk to their parents freely without like suffering from consequences.
Exactly. And so yeah, so that's I think that's good. We had a lot of questions today.
Yes, I told you it's an interactive session, and I'm so happy to like have received this many questions, and I also would like to encourage the last person who asked the question about like witnessing their mother. I'd like to encourage them to like seek professional help through maybe calling the mental support hotline on 800 HOPE, into 800-4673, because I think it's very important for someone like to address their mental issues and their mental well-being.
Yes.
The hotline is completely free. I'll post again the number for the hotline in the chat section. Please do not hesitate to invite anyone who has any struggles, and they're not able to seek out professional help for some reason. So go ahead and just call us on 800-HOPE. I'd like to thank you very much for this informative, brilliant session. This was very nice. And like, it was so nice that I did not even notice how the time passed by. So I'm very happy that you were able to make it, Mariam. This was a very informative session.
Thank you.
I encourage you, everyone, go ahead and follow Child Safe Me on Instagram and on their website for the podcast. I'd like to also thank everyone who joined us today to attend the session. We're very happy to wrap up the Jusur live sessions with your session, Mariam. Thank you again very, very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, everyone. And stay safe during this COVID-19. And I hope we get in touch again very soon. Thank you, Sally, for organizing it.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.